We are ready to begin. Call the meeting to order and roll call. Let's start with Will.
Will Roddybush here.
John Samplin here.
Jeff Hollis here.
Ryan Rothenbuehler here.
And we'll introduce our new member in just a moment. But our next meeting is, well, we need approval minutes first. Sorry, Jeff. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from March 25th?
So I'd make a motion we approve the March 25th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are approved. So as of just last night, I understand, we have approved a new member of the HPC, Ryan Rothenbuehler. How am I doing on the pronunciation?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Ryan's attorney with Marsh and Rothenbuehler located on South Main Street. So we will use your expertise. We appreciate your volunteering to be part of our HPC. That's great. Letter C on our administrative items, chairperson report. I don't have a lot to report, except that we do have a radio interview that's coming up on Friday, 7:30 a.m. If everybody could get up early and listen to WBGU with Will and Heidi and Heather. So thank you for doing that. And what are you talking about? Just about
Whatever Clint wants to talk about.
Well, I have an outline that we created kind of similar to previous years, but our focus wants to be on Preservation Month, but usually Clint takes us all kinds of other places. So we'll see how it goes.
Always an interesting interview with Clint, so that's great. Heather, do you have something to report at this point? We were putting a report from you on our agenda, but I don't know what that was about.
I don't really have anything specific other than what's on the agenda that I
Okay.
can think of.
Okay, we'll come back to that if something comes up. FAQs, we have talked about those at some length, and this is in response to some concerns from one of our local members, Will Earhart and Rachel Phipps. The commission has talked about the addition of some items which we have worked on. I know Heidi was involved in helping. I think we all were in helping add those, and Heather has blended them into the FAQs. I did prepare a letter to Will Earhart, which was delivered a few days ago. It's just to finish up that request he had made last December concerning the questions about being in a historic district and what to expect. So we've completed that, and I think the additions are good comments to have. Letter E, strategic plan. I wanted to have a little discussion with our commission just as an update to our strategic plan that was passed in 2022. So it's already been three years since we had put that together. And I thought it might be a good time to mention some of the items that were on the strategic plan and to see where we're at as far as our goals and what we've accomplished. I think we've done pretty well on the plan, but we probably should be adding some new items. So I'd like to just go through this briefly with our members here and talk about what we've done and maybe what we still would like to do. So just to read this out loud, the plan was intended to guide and focus our HPC activities during the period of 22 through 2025. It should be understood that that the stated goal is not an end for the commission. Eventually, as soon as it seems reasonable, we hope to be able to add more of historic Bowling Green to the proposed historic district, especially the Main Street area, which is now enrolled in the National Register of Historic Places. Some of our goals that we set out in 2022. First one was to achieve City Council approval of the listing of the existing Boomtown area, possibly with small additions on our local register as the first part of a Bowling Green Historic District. Well, that has not been finished. We do hope to get back to that at some point. I think that it's an optimistic goal, but one that I hope we can continue to think about and work on our downtown friends to perhaps consider setting up a district for that area. Letter B, project strategies to meet the goal, gaining endorsement from the mayor. We have gotten that endorsement. I'm not sure about the downtown area, but we have been endorsed by the mayor for many of our projects. Number 2, listing 2 or more city buildings as well as the county and BGS buildings. This is one goal that we have been successful with. We've registered the police building, Needle Hall, the BGSU University Hall, and Wood County Courthouse and Old Jail. Those were all done and finished in 2022. Number 3, receiving council approval for listing many Bowling Green historic districts from the Boomtown area on our local register. We have been successful, as we all know, with the approving the small Bowling or the Maple Street district, 2 blocks on North Maple Street. So that was completed in 2024. And I'm very happy about that one. Number 4, receiving council approval of as many individual historic buildings as possible for listing on our local register. And Heather sent me a map listing. I see on here, Heather, two homes, but we have more than that, right, that we've registered?
Right, well, we have the homes that are part of the district, the Maple
Right, there's, I think,
District. and
22
then-
homes from that. And then 328 Court Street. And 503 Buttonwood. And now I think 416 West Wooster is
Still in process.
still in process, right? So another one of our goals I think we've partially met, and I'm happy to report that. Number 5, completing an HPC inventory of buildings in the Boomtown area and the Main Street area to if possible. We're far from even starting that project, but I would like to keep that on our strategic plan for the future. Number 6, arranging positive and frequent publicity and education about historic buildings and districts. We have many projects going on, including our House or Building of the Month. I think that's been a big success, and our various activities that we have in May for the Historic Month. I think that's been a really great success.
For the 3rd time this year. Yeah.
3rd time, exactly. And then number 7, developing community acceptance and enthusiasm for the idea of historic districts by meetings with community groups, media recognition, public hearings, city roundtable, promotional projects, and placement of plaques or signs at historic sites in BG. So not bad for 3 years, I think. Congratulations to us.
Hit yourself on the back.
That's right.
I would thought on numbers 2, 3, and 5, one is listing Shoremore City buildings we've done, and receiving council for mini districts, and then the other is completing inventory. My thoughts are, this is just my own thought, is to approach it maybe doing like we did North Maple. In other words, if it's to start looking at other possible districts, even if they're many, like part of West Worcester, maybe Church Street,
And when you're saying mini, it's M-I-N-I.
MINI,
right?
yep, mini.
Okay.
Yep. In other words, just like North Maple, but it's the same approach, but then look at where's the next kind of package of residences, or like doing the breaking up Main Street north and south, and maybe doing the commercial buildings as a mini package, just like the approach was to North Maple.
Good.
Well, I think with North Main Street was started by the residents that live there, so I just don't want to step on anybody, push anybody into doing
North
something
Maple.
that on North Maple, sorry.
North Maple, yeah.
So
So
like if
maybe to
the
find-
residents of, West Worcester aren't saying, hey, we want a district, I don't think we
So
should
maybe to find a
impose it
champion
on
for
them.
like a
Yeah,
mini
'cause-
group, like a champion. You were kind of the champion leading.
Right.
So maybe finding a champion within a mini district.
It could be one block, could be multiple blocks
Few
or
houses,
buildings,
yep,
right?
yep.
So you're suggesting, Will, that we amend our strategic plan?
Well, it's sort of
to-
like number 3 and number 5. I think completing an inventory, seems like we do that for individual houses when we do the inventories. And I'm not sure we did a specific inventory house by house on North Maple. The actual inventory form where you went
Right.
through and found the foundation materials and roofing material.
We just did kind of an abbreviated
Yes. Yep.
mention about each of those homes. Yeah.
So that'd be kind of maybe number 5 is completing this, or the abbreviated inventory then of a district.
Okay, good.
And it may be to go back to the maps, I think I'm wrong, but to go back to the 2 maps of the Main Street district and the Worcester district, and looking at the actual boundaries of those, and then looking at subdividing them into mini districts or something, MINI districts.
Right. Heidi, were you going to say something else?
And no, I just don't want to impose our restrictions onto a community if they don't initiate it.
I think we need to suggest the possibility, though, that it does exist, and are some of the communities interested, some of the homes, some of the businesses. The business area, I think, is probably going to be somewhat resistant. I don't know. What would you think about that? Ryan, do you have any thoughts about continuing to interest the business district downtown?
I would prefer to learn a little bit more before I start making any opines. I want to dip my feet in a little bit. And get a feel
We won't
for-
get you in trouble yet.
The first meeting.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's a good idea. Will. Jeff, any thoughts?
Well, I appreciate Heidi's concern, and so I think that Will's approach of maybe doing it in smaller units is a good way to do it. One way we might, I'm thinking about the downtown right now, rather than Boomtown, is to continue to feature downtown buildings as historic buildings of the month. And that gets the information out to the public. We have a basic history of the buildings then to work with, and that might be seed crystal, so to speak,
Yeah.
for a project like that. And it might get the owners and occupants interested.
I think as we're about to end at least our school semester and entering a summertime when we're a little less active, we can just start daydreaming about what our projects might be for next year. And I think those are some good ideas. Anything else? Okay, well, let's keep thinking about additions to the strategic plan, and maybe in the fall, we can revisit this and do some updating and amending to this plan.
John, I have a question. Do we have, so we've got all these historic of buildings of the month. Do we have them gathered together? Like, can we make a booklet out of them, or any ideas about that?
Heather has
publication.
prepared this set. And I think that's the most updated one that you had sent me, right, Heather, of the
I
buildings?
think I sent you the local historic register, so that's different from this month, or do you have that too? So I keep a running list of which building, which month, and they're
no.
also all on our city website,
Oh, correct.
Yeah,
but they're
so-
not in a comprehensive booklet.
You're talking about the House of the Month.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like the public can just
Yeah.
go, they can go to the website and just look up any house of the month and just, it's nice to have that history available and stuff.
I would like to have it more collected. Dick Martin, a friend of the commission, has suggested that we actually look toward assembling a book of them, and I think that's a good idea. One of the challenges for that will be that, at least when I put them together, I have all of the sources, but I've never collected the sources into an actual, bibliography. I think that's just part of the process that would have to go into that, because the sources are probably just as interesting as the text that result. So there'll be some work to go into it, but Dick and I, and if anyone else wants to get involved, we'll probably get working on that, so.
To add to the conversation, I had a talk with the mayor too about really thinking about the bicentennial celebration, since that's in 2033. That's not that far away, even though it seems far away. But he would love to see, we always call it the Green Book, that was done last time, and that would take a lot of time to get that together. So I think that should be really part of your strategic plan thinking, is, gearing up for that 2033 planning and what the celebrating looks like, and a comprehensive committee to plan that.
8 years off, but that's going to go fast.
It will, especially if you're going to have a month-long,
Yeah.
schedule of events, or a week. I know the last one they did, I think it was almost a month long. I did collect some information I've ran across about that. So the sesquicentennial, I'm probably not saying that right, but I've tried to keep what I could about that celebration. Time capsules, the schools were involved. It was a big thing.
Yeah, I'm going back to the many neighborhoods and stuff, keeping it, the historic property inventory, even though all those houses like on North Maple were all kind of tied together and they don't have individual, they're kind of highlighted. I think it'd be interesting to have more information about each individual house as well. But that could be strong, just for history's sake, not for any to get more designation, but just
A more extensive inventory
Yeah.
of each.
Like they had a lot of history about the occupants. And that was
well, I like
very
see-
interesting
and more about the style.
in the style.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to the local designations, buildings of interest. Former South Main School, is there any change, progress, any?
I can tell you, the mayor talked to me about this on Monday and said he's had no luck with any interest in the building. He's only heard concerns about the interior condition and anybody's willingness to do anything. I mean, he hopes somebody can find, some interest there to do something, but so far he hasn't had any luck.
Okay.
I did talk to Chris Moen a little bit too, since former member, and she doesn't live here anymore, but this is basically the field she lives in, is historic tax credits and building rehabilitations like this. And she wanted me to let the HPC know that she's still happy to help facilitate a panel discussion about historic tax credits, that they are very much real and have helped take projects to the finish line. If you're interested, she'd be happy to work on that. But otherwise, it's just tough right now. She said there's also I can't remember if it's a House bill or Senate bill that she told me that if it passes soon, that will change a bit about tax credits. And so she would want to kind of see where that goes before you do a panel discussion. But there's a lot of money out there, and it's they've talked about doubling the historic tax credits in Ohio. So it's just, again, wrapping that interest with the developer willing to take on a project like that. It's just the hard part.
So tax credits could be appropriate for the old school?
Well, only if we got it on the National Register or locally designated. That's the catch why I kind of brought that up a while ago, was, that you have to have that to even go for the historic tax credits.
So we need to get that on our discussion list here.
And, and then obviously it's owned by a private individual, so, this is all upon his shoulders, what he wants to do with the property.
Yeah, I know we had talked about reaching out to the owner to see interest from him. I don't know that we ever did that. Jeff, did we?
Oh, yeah, several times. Yeah.
And he, what was his?
Well, he's kind of gone back and forth. He's talked about developing it himself, which he hasn't. He's done some repairs, but minimal in terms of restoring it. And he's been trying to sell it at various points as well. So there's been some interest, but not too much action.
Minimal.
And when he responded to my email, he did have some concerns with being on the National Register and how that might inhibit the sale of the property. And what I try to do is make it absolute 100% clear that has nothing to do with any restrictions whatsoever being on the National Register. It actually is a way that you can get tax credits, and he never responded to me after I tried. I gave him websites about it and, that are reputable, and he didn't respond to the email. But again, I'm just trying to put information out there that National Register is just symbolic.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's work on him some more. At least for getting on the National Register.
Yeah, that's the next step.
Okay, other possible sites of interest, we bring these up each month. And we've made no further inquiries or inroads into any of these, but the old windmill, the Hannah House, the Corner Grill, and Quazell.
Another possible one has come up. Someone who is on the board at the First Presbyterian Church approached me informally. It was at the Pancake Day, Kiwanis Pancake Day. But she said that they have some major repairs to do, and she wondered if getting the designation would help them. And Heather looked into this for us. And for a church, there's really no advantage, since it's a tax exempt institution in the first place, that getting tax credits is just not something that would help them out. So I'll continue to talk. It might be good to have it on the National Register, or on the local register anyway.
Well, and the state did say that they need to consult their own tax expert
Right.
Or attorney, not, they can't make any determinations.
A particular, only in general, that's not likely.
Right, because the historic tax credits for the state and the federal are income producing,
Yeah.
so a church wouldn't. Makes sense.
it would work for the school, because if it became an income producing operation, but for a church, you know.
That was
other-
Dana
That was
Nemeth.
Dana Nemeth, yeah.
Nemeth, yeah.
The other thing possible with the church is doing an endowment, like internal, with gifts from members. That goes into, it's interest bearing, like say with the Bowling Green Community Foundation, that's umbrellaed under the Toledo Community Foundation.
Okay,
It gives interest off usually after it's endowed by the next year. Once it's endowed, then whatever money's in there, it gives, like if it's 100,000 in there, it used to be 5%, but I think it may be 3 or 4. So you'd probably get like 3 or 4,000 coming off of each 100,000 that's endowed. So they could set something like that up just specifically, because when you write the gift, you can write it for specific things. So they could specify for the preservation of the church, or I did one for First Christian Church, but it's generic, sort of like the Habitat for Humanity one we set up. Is very generic for the general purpose of the habitat or the church. So if they wanted to do one specifically for historic preservation, they would have to write that in the deed of the gift, and the gifts would have to go in there knowing that it's going for specific use.
so that foundation might be able to take advantage
They would set
Tax
up
credits.
a fund.
of a fund, okay.
Yeah. And they could do it like a generic fund, and then they could, at their board meetings, they could say, well, we need another X thousand for historic preservation, and get it approved internally at the church.
And so it might be to their benefit to get the designation in any case, because it might be a way to motivate people to
It could.
donate, yeah.
So should we go back to Dana with an encouragement for proceeding with a request for designation?
Yeah, I can do that. I have the information from, that Heather gathered, and we have Will's suggestion, so I'll get in touch with her.
Great, thank you. Historic plaques, I don't know that we're ready to move forward with anything there.
That's what I have been researching prices. You remember we talked about, having the potential for plaques to be sold to homeowners who are locally designated. My issue has, came back as they're very expensive. And I don't know if you remember that when I found it in Cleveland, they were only $200 a plaque. And I could not find them at 200. So I'm kind of back to square one, where we look at maybe our budget for the commission and see if we're willing to maybe kick in per plaque, not knowing how much yet. So again, I'm just kind of stuck there. I had a cost of $1,200 for a plaque.
Whoa.
Of course, it's bronze. That's another difference. I had to learn between bronze and aluminum. And of course, bronze is the best, but aluminum looks very comparable to bronze, but much cheaper. So anyway, still looking for prices and to see how maybe we can swing it with our commission, because we don't know if it'll be, 10 plaques or one, or maybe no one's interested. I have no idea. So it's kind of hard to plan with a company not knowing how many plaques, because they say the more you order, the better price you can get. But we want to have like a standardized policy and procedure to make it easy for all of us to have this option.
Should we do a survey of the North Maple neighborhood, but also the other two houses, to see if they're interested, or is that too premature?
I don't think long-term, though, that's kind of our goal. Like, we're just trying to get this going to see how we can make it work and make it affordable. That's my only concern.
Yeah.
So,
I think if it's $1,200 a plaque, we're not going to have a lot of takers.
no, and I talked to who we used for our downtown signs, and they were actually a much better price than the local people, that I talked to. So we can get an aluminum 8x8 down to $210. But again, I don't know how the commission feels about aluminum versus bronze. And then the size, and of course from here we had to look at designs. And the other price was a 10x10. aluminum is $281. So, but bronze would be 8x8 is $384, and a 10x10 bronze is $482.
So the cheapest bronze was 380?
The cheapest bronze was 8x8, $384.
I don't know about North Maple residents, but that there probably would be a few people that would be interested at that cost.
Okay.
And were the last prices you mentioned the ones that you got from the B Sign Group?
Yes. And I can still look at other companies. I was just trying to get help from, people that were readily accessible to even see if it's possible and go from there.
Yeah.
So we can still get, definitely more prices. I just was a little bit disappointed at first that we couldn't get the same $200 price. I thought that was very reasonable.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they swing it, besides they must pay for some of it in Cleveland.
We didn't contact them to ask them that question, right? How do they get it so cheaply?
I did, but I don't think they really answered me. They just said, here's who we use. And when I contacted who they use, the price was still pretty high.
Okay.
But the more you order, the cheaper it is. So I'm kind of guessing that's how it works in Cleveland, a much bigger city, so.
Okay, well,
Thank you for all the
yeah,
research you've been doing.
let's not totally give up on that yet. Okay, moving on, number 5, Friends of HPC. Buildings of the month. Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, March and April, we're still looking at the Helfrich House, which was supposed to come out in 2 installments. The city put it out all at once, but the newspapers are putting it out in 2, I think. That's the house at 315 West Wooster, and the Snook House. And Leanne Snook wrote the article. Oh, here is the article for May, which is 155 South Prospect Street.
Great house.
Leo Herman House, if we name it after the builder who built it for himself. As I've mentioned before, he's the same builder who did St. Al's and the big bank building downtown and a lot of other churches and other buildings around Ohio. In June and July, I've been working on neighborhood markets as possible buildings of the month. I thought I would do them in groups, and for June, I have been working on, let me find them here, 3 different ones that seem to be the ones that attracted the most attention. On the Historic BG group on Facebook, there was a couple of discussions of the neighborhood markets, and 316 Buttonwood came up a lot. It was a neighborhood grocery behind the house, next to the house, from the 1930s to the 1970s. It was first the Harry Dillon Grocery, and then it was Dillon and Moscow. And I've been doing some research into these people who owned and ran the grocery. Dillon just worked with a lot of other grocers in the city, and then started his own business. Moscow was an interesting fellow because he came to Bowling Green as a basketball player for Bowling Green State Normal College in the 1920s. He was a star in New York, Potsdam, New York, and then he came here. And he was also a baseball player and a football player. That's how they did it in those days. He was a star in all 3 sports. But he stayed here, I think. I haven't determined this for sure, but I think he met his wife here, and who was from Sylvania. And then he went into the grocery business. The people on Facebook remember him. His name was Homer Moscow, and his wife June, as really nice people who were more than just shopkeepers, that they were full of wisdom and kindness. So that's 316 Buttonwood, building is still there. 433 North Enterprise was across from the Heinz plant when the Heinz plant was there. And from the 30s to the 70s, it was a store. The first owner was a fellow named Busenbark, which is an interesting name, William Busenbark. Then it was Stearns, then it was Eddie's, and people still remember it being Eddie's. And then for a short time, it was run by Hipschers. And then it went out of business right around the same time that the factory closed, the ketchup factory. And at 414 North Grove, which is a North Grove carryout, I still was able to experience that one, but it was started in the 1930s as Garnett's, then it became Grove Street Market, and then Don's Grocery is the one that a lot of people in town still remember. So those are the ones that I'm looking at for June. And for July, I have a couple also in the wings. One on North Prospect, one on North Summit. And there are a couple of downtown ones as well.
Did you find photos of the corner stores? Photographs?
Yeah, I had some help from, I've mentioned him several times, Todd Wagoner, and he had some photos. I've taken some photos too. Oh, there's also one on South South Prospect that I want to feature. And so, yeah, photos are available. And I found an old photo of the one on North Enterprise that was in the Ohio Memories collection from the, it was no longer a store in this photo, but you can tell that it was, yeah.
We also are looking at September for the Wood County District Library, right? August, we do not have anything for August, is that correct?
That's right, yeah. I think it's probably time to do the Clazel. We've been talking about it a long time. We have lots of information about it that Jan collected, and I'd be happy to write it if I can use your materials and your advice, yeah, so.
Great, maybe that could be a joint article. Excellent. We also had a nomination from Craig Deffenbaugh for 202 South Church. I don't know anything very much about this. I think this came to you, Heather, and you maybe forwarded it to me. The building site, Agnes Young, they told me that it was the first home in town built as a duplex from the start. You know a little bit about this, Jeff, maybe. It would have been considered a high-end rental with its stained glass windows and fireplace that resembles those in the Hotel Milliken. I believe it's still owned by Agnes. It's Suter Frame and Art Gallery. She could probably tell you more. Love to know more about it. Thank you. Always enjoy the series of articles. Craig Deffenbaugh. We had a nomination from Dawn McGahee. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Do you know that name? 117 Manville, which was a GE house.
Oh, no, that's new to me, yeah. Good. Oh.
Again, I think this came to me. It was somebody that, when we did our little presentation at the senior citizens building, Dawn McGahee told me she would email me something, and I have a little information. I can share that with you, Jeff. And then we had, Jeff, I think you had suggested the Easy Street Cafe or
Yeah, I haven't really started on that, but if anyone knows anything about that building, please let me know.
And if we have any friends out there who want to do an article, we would love to encourage that. So you can contact me or Heather or Jeff, and we can make that happen.
And another one that I mentioned last time, Drew Hanna approached me about possibly doing the Hanna Law offices on North Main, which is a fairly modern-looking building, but it was built in 1971, so it's, it qualifies as historic and has a very interesting past.
And one more thought was Norm Gear's building on the corner. He took me up to the third floor, which is empty, but it was one of their community organizations would meet up there. They have a stage. It's kind of rough room right now, but it's got a lot of history to that building.
And the other day, I was just walking by there and realized that we should also do the Gagan House across the street from that, because Dick collected a lot of information on that. So we have plenty of possibilities now, and for many of them, we already have the information. We can see if Norm wants to write it himself.
Good idea.
I always thought the Key Bank would be an interesting building because it's modern. I don't know when it was built, but
The Key Bank.
on Pearl and
And
South Main Street.
Yeah. Every time I go by there, I think, I've lived here for almost 40 years and I've never been in that building. So
Never had an account there.
it's a striking example of 1960s, I think.
Yeah, mid-century modern, just kind of popular right now in certain areas.
Okay, moving on. Number 6, public relations and educational projects. Past workshops, events, Wood County Museum, First Fridays, Make It, Take It Craft. That was April 4th. Tea and Talk series, signed, sealed, and delivered. The 6888 WAC, that was April 10th. Lively U at the Senior Center, April 9th.
That didn't happen. I got sick and wasn't able to hold my own class. But I'll be doing it, as noted later, on May 7th. So
And Jeff, you're volunteered to do the Exchange Club, either June 3rd or July 22nd.
Oh, I didn't have those specific dates.
Maybe they're not correct.
Okay.
I read that someplace.
Or maybe I just didn't look far enough down in the email.
I think that just came today.
Oh, okay.
Right. Future events coming up. Wood County District Public Library walking tour, June 7th. Well, that's, I don't know what date that is, 10 to 11:30. Wood County Museum Easter egg scavenger hunt, April 1 through 30th. Ribbon cutting and opening house for We'll Meet Again, Remembering World War II, April 24th.
Now, that's this week.
Free First Fridays, Make It and Take It Craft, May 2nd. I guess, is that at the library? I don't know where. Yeah, those are all, no, the Wood County Museums. Early Ohio at the Portage, May 2 through 4. Lady Brandon Berry's Ball, May 3rd. Everybody's going to that ball, I'm sure.
I think
Some nice activities. And Lively U at the Senior Center, May 7th.
as long as I'm staying healthy, I'll do that one.
Great. Under Public Relations, letter C, Historic Preservation Month of May. Several things happening. Scavenger hunt. Heather's got that in place. So thank you for working on that. So how do people get their map? Is that in the newspaper? How are we-
Well, I'm going to give you a copy if you want to look at it. It'll be on our city website, May
website.
1st. It can be printed there, or we have an online version, so people could, do it on their phone if they wanted to walk around and answer them and submit it online. We also will have copies here at the city building in the planning department. We'll have them at the library next door, at the second floor information desk, and then they're going to be at the Chamber Economic Development, which is on South Church Street, their office. So they could submit them back by paper at any of those locations or again online. And we have 4 prizes of downtown dollars at $25.
Great. So we're all going to participate in that, I hope.
You should do good, John. No.
I will be great. I want that $25
The road to signs.
coupon. The pedal bike tour, I think that's $30 a person. Does that sound right?
Yes.
BJ Bike Tour with Dick Martin. And Jeff, are you part of that?
Yes, I'm too.
You have any other details about that?
I have to look at my calendar to.
I have it on the
find-
press
you have
release. I can
dates?
just, Saturday, May 17th, 11 a.m. Sunday, May 18th at 1:15 p.m. And then there's 2 dates into June, which is Saturday, June 14th at 11 a.m. and Sunday, June 15th at 1:15 p.m. And then in the press release, we provide the bgpedalcompany.com website where you need to register and pay through that, pick on the calendar the date and time that you want to go. And then it's a 90-minute tour. And then after you register, you'll receive the confirmation email with the details.
Our idea for the ones in May are to start at Arlen's, which is where they start anyway, and come down West Worcester, look at North Maple, and then go into the downtown and Court Street areas. So
Good.
Hey, don't be too loud when you go past my house.
well, I think we won't have too much music because they want to hear us, right? But we won't talk too loud.
That'll be fun. Thank you. And then History Lives Here, our signs, which, how many do we have now, Heather? About,
I think at my last count, we're at 44. We only got 3 new ones this year, unfortunately, which is just because we reached out to specific people that we already had their history from one of the History of the Month articles that we did, or Historic Building of the Month articles. So we basically added 201 North Maple Street, 155 South Prospect Street, and then 923 Fairview, which is the BG Country Club. So we were hoping for more, but I don't think we can do much else besides specifically reaching out to people that we already have the history of. And then we're able to post that information and get a picture.
Would we have enough signs if I were able to add 1 or 2 more? 'Cause I'm
Yes, absolutely.
on it.
I ordered 30 more signs and I already had some extras.
Okay,
So, yeah, so we'll get those out probably the day before, like end of April, if not by May 1st in the morning.
so do you need our help in putting them around?
I think we'll be okay because most people should already have their sign from last year and be able to reuse it. I'll do one last email to our group of owners and ask them if they still need a sign or not and remind them to put it up if they do have one. Otherwise, I think we should be okay.
Great. Excellent. Okay, that's everything on our agenda. We have now lobby visitation.
Real quick, John, we need to mention our partners too for Preservation Month. So we have a list of events that the library is doing along with the Wood County Museum. So I just want to make sure we always recognize that we work together on this press release and put all our events there, and I'll pass out the copy of the press release and then we can attach it to the minutes.
Great. For the minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, lobby visitation, do we have any volunteers?
I just took a few notes when you were talking about markets. There was one on West Mary, in the first block of West Mary. I mean, it must have been a market because it certainly looks like it was a market.
Yeah, I know.
And when I was a member of a food co-op, that was a health food store.
I remember.
Yeah.
And then it was a framing store, and most
Yeah.
recently it's an art gallery, or there's one in there.
Oh, is there?
It might not be there
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh, I
but
don't
went to an
know.
art show there.
It might be fun to include Sparrows Market, which is the current location of Kirk's Coin Laundry. The Bob Kirkland married Arlene Sparrow, and that's why when it became a laundry, it became Kirk's Coin Laundry. But I was a member of that family, married into it, and during the Depression, that store was marked by people who were traveling and needed food, that somehow it was marked. People knew that that was a place to go where they could get something to eat. Yeah. And then I don't know how long Belleville's meat market has been there, but they might. And then Perkins Market. Before Tyrrell's Market, it was Perkins Market on West Worcester. So, I mean, that might be a different article than the little residential area grocery stores. Sean Brennan did some research on little grocery stores when the zoning discussion was happening.
Oh, right. 'cause they
So, and he gave an interesting presentation, so it might be interesting to reach out to him.
Yeah, I'll ask you privately for
Yeah.
contact information.
I showed Jan the picture of the house at 117 Manville, and she said that's where Tim Conway lived
Oh, really?
when he was a student at BGSU. So that's kind of a cool little fact.
Is that the one that,
Yeah, it looks like it's
box.
made of.
Looks like an igloo.
It's what?
Looks like it used to be white. You always
Yeah,
thought of it as an
it
igloo.
was igloo-like.
It's like an ice
Yeah.
box.
or styrofoam cooler.
Yeah, or a little Pueblo or Pueblo or
Yeah.
something
Oh,
like that.
right.
Because it's all stucco. Depending on the color.
So Agnes Young sold the house. That's been purchased recently. And you must say in that article about the little corner grocery stores that we all called it Dirty Don's.
Dirty Don's?
Yeah.
We called it the smoke store because it always smelled like cigarette smoke
Cigarettes.
in there,
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned that also on Facebook.
Yeah. Lindsay Jo Durham, she's the chair of the Human Relations Commission. At the past two city council meetings, she brought up the fact that she thinks it would be appropriate for the city to change the name of Gypsy Lane Road because it is considered pejorative in terms of the Roma people. So that's sort of, she gave, at the council meeting this week, she gave some history of the use of Gypsy Lane for the name of that road.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's Lindsay Jo Durham.
Yeah, yeah, Durham or Dunham, do you know?
I think it's Durham.
Yeah, anyway, I have her email address.
Yeah, I've thought of that many times, but I also have thought that there's some history there that would also be interesting to recover, that there were Roma people living there. And if we could combine those two things at the same time, remove the pejorative term, but also talk about the history of the people.
Right. And she, because it extends beyond the city limits, She said that what she's asking is the city council to make a resolution and then go to the county, because it would need to be considered by the county too, unless it changed names when someone entered
Right.
from the boundary, the city limit. Yeah. That's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.
Jan Knapp at 504 South Main. It's been a while since I've been here, but I've been busy with other things. The Belleville Market, I do have a folder of history that not Jamie, his brother, gave me, and I haven't had time to do anything with it, but I would really recommend doing something on the Belleville brothers too.
Yeah, I think
'Cause
they
they had-
deserve at least their own article, right?
Yeah, for sure, because they were originally in one of the storefronts downtown too,
Right.
and they have some photos of that.
Yeah. He also spoke to Kiwanis once, and it was fascinating.
yeah.
Fascinating.
Right. I think that may be where I heard him, and then I invited him to Rotary too after that. So I really would like to see the plaques for the historic designations of homes. That would be really cool to see happen. Seems like there were a couple other things that I was going to bring up, but I think Rose may have covered those. So thanks.
Thank you, Jan.
Karen Schwab is our secretary for our temple board. And the other night at temple board, she brought in her dad's stuff. His last name was Wood. And he presented a Masonic directory from 1919 that has a lot of names in it. Cannery's name's in there, Haslett, which is the mayor, Gus Skibby's name. And in the history, I tried to find Dr. Manville's. Unfortunately, I haven't come across any pictures of him. Of course, he was in the 1870s, 80s, 90s. There's a chest up on the fourth floor. I thought it may be wait till mid-August when it's 120 degrees to go through that stuff. Anybody want to help me do it? There's a great big chest full of just papers. But one of the things in here also was said its location in 1919 was in the Cunning and Whitehead block, which weren't we calling that the Mercer block?
No, the Mercer Block is the Masonic Temple. Cunning and Whitehead is farther south. It's the building where I think that
Cooning or
California with a K is in there.
What, what's it say on this building right here?
This one is K-Big, yeah.
What is it?
K-Big.
And there's a,
Cabin?
K-Big. K-A.
Oh, okay.
but
Okay.
Cunning and
that-
Whitehead, you can see it.
Anyway.
It's the letters are there, but
So.
Yeah.
Here you go, Doc. We can discern that.
thank you.
What year was this?
1919, which is the year before they bought the Mercer Block. So there might even be discussion of that decision in here. But there are lots of famous people who, famous to us, right? Hankey, Lincoln, Oughton, Saul Leather.
That's interesting. Where, again, where did that come from? Is that your own copy? Where did you say this was from?
Oh, that's Karen Schwab. She's our temple board secretary. It's her father's stuff. She's Ephemera.
Oh, okay, okay. That's great. Okay, well, I think that's the conclusion of our meeting. Do we have a?
I move that we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.